Hey YouTube, this is Evan Magician 34, and I'm coming back with what I really hope to be one of the better decks for this format that I'm going to be running. It's a lot of fun, it's very good. It's plants, and there are a variety of spins on plants that are popular right now. Gigavise is certainly one of them. This isn't Gigavise, but I may very well be doing Gigavise at some point. But for now, this is more or less a new format variant of the tomato deck I've been running. The format change actually helps plants quite a bit, and this variant as well. It offers a lot of options, does better in a control-oriented environment. Well, let's just get right to the deck and I'll let it speak for itself. One copy of Titanial, Princess of Camellias. One copy of Gigaplant, very good card. Playing the deck correctly, you really only need one copy of Gigaplant. Just be careful to protect him from bottomlesses, and that's not so hard. Two copies of this wondrously powerful card, Lone Fire Blossom. Still untouched by the new ban list, Dandelion at 2. A lot of people earlier in the previous format had been afraid it would be going back to 1 after going to 2, but it didn't have that big an impact, so it did end up staying at 2, which is perfectly fine. I mean, Quick Draw was really the only deck that used it, and it wasn't that abusive, all things considered. We do run 2 copies of Lord Poison. He's just an excellent way to revive Gigaplant and Titanial. It's the main reason he's here, but he can also get back tuners, he can get all kinds of crazy stuff. Very good card. Forces opponents to do things like waste Bottomless sometimes, on a card that is in and of itself not that great of a threat itself. It gets threats, but that's another story. 3 copies of Cherry and Mado. This should be looking like the previous deck you saw, at least at first. An excellent 2-star tuner. I think it's probably the best 2-star plant tuner, pretty much. Great recruiter. We also run 1 copy of Mado, because obviously Cherry and Mado can turn into this guy and another Cherry and Mado for a sync for 5. Spore, excellent tuner. We also run 1 copy of Mystic Tomato. He searches things. He's also another plant to feed to your plant effects, but more on that in a second. This is just the first version of the deck, and I've already playtested it a little bit. It's a very successful deck. I don't know if this card necessarily belongs in the long run, at least not for this build. Now, Cherry of Pineapple. He's a nice tree-born frog, but his restriction on nothing but plants and beasts in the grave is kind of a challenge. So we'll just have to wait and see if he survives to later editions and versions of the deck. But I did run him in the version that I'm actually playtesting right now, so I decided to include him in this deck list. He's kind of expensive, so if you want to go another way, that's perfectly fine. Speaking of things that aren't plants, I do run Sangan mainly because he's a great way to search Lone Fire. Lone Fire is the heart and soul of the deck, but this guy's also, I mean, he plays into lots of stuff. There's also Plague Spreader, who does not fight with the pineapple as much, largely because he can remove himself. Just another good tuner, another card that likes to go to the grave, etc. Card not to be underestimated in this deck, very powerful. A lot of people seem to forget how good he is, yet from format to format he's one of the best removal cards. 3 copies of Caius the Shadow Monarch. He's so good, so very few cards actually answer him, and he sucks up a lot of cards like, say, one of the primary offenders, Bottomless Trap Hole, and he can attack through things like Mirror Force and Deep Prison potentially, and usually absorbs them. And the good thing about that is he absorbs them when cards like your Synchros and Gigaplant and whatnot, you'd rather he die than they die. So he's very useful. He serves a lot of purposes. Very good card. Another card that's kind of questionable, but the circumstances are right because you can control your darks very well in your grave, is Dark Armed Dragon. And he's very easy to get now because he's in one of the new tins. So he's in the version I'm playtesting for now. Onto the spells. Monster Reborn, one of the reasons plants are so very good. Base concept, I mean, sure, it can get all kinds of things from your grave, all the different tuners and whatnot, which you pump in there with Lone Fire. But most importantly, you can use this just to instantaneously get Gigaplant, and then just straight up normal summon the Gigaplant and get whatever from your grave, and do your usual fill the field with all kinds of stuff tricks. Excellent card for this deck, gave it a lot of power in the new format. And just because there's no brain control doesn't mean you can't steal stuff. 2 copies of Mark of the Rose. People are not expecting to have their stuff stolen, bottom line. Mind Control is really the only card that does that anymore. These do it a lot better because you can attack and whatnot. So, very good card there. Allure of Darkness, speaks for itself. Gold Sarcophagus, you can try to work into if you want, but it's not the greatest top deck. and it takes a while to actually help you. So I mean, 1 is really kind of the best. I may in later playtesting work in a second, but for now I've been very happy with 1. Dark Hole also kind of speaks for itself. 3 copies of Book of Moon, great disruption, great way to run stuff over and neutralize threats, etc. It's one of the best control cards you got in this deck. And because back rows are kind of problematic for a deck that sinks so much and whatnot, of course we're running 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon. We're also running Call of the Haunted because special summoning monsters, quickly sinking, etc. Options are what this deck is about, and Call definitely suits that theme. We're also running Return from the Different Dimension. There's a plethora of ways to remove stuff from play. Some of the stuff removes itself, some of it removes other stuff. Return is a great way to capitalize on it, and you can easily swing for game because of it. Good card, good addition. Torrential Tribute, self-explanatory. Bottomless Trap Hole, also explanatory, really just belongs in every deck right now. Also Karma Cut, more removal, it's non-destroying also, so you can get rid of things like Stardust and get around My Body's a Shield. It also pumps things into your grave, which is important in this deck. And it's chainable, of course, too, which is nice. It can cut off synchros by removing half of it, and so on. And finally, we also run Dust Tornado. There are other options for this extra Spell Trap Destruction slot. The reason we want Dust Tornado, actually, is because of Call of the Haunted and Return from the Different Dimension. Reason being, you can save that in your hand, set this, and if your opponent does the quick MST on their turn or whatever, you can chain the Dusty to remove the target that they were going to destroy with MST, blow away something else, and at the same time set the Call or Return from the Different Dimension so it'll be ready on your own turn. So, it's a neat trick you can do with this. Alright, that's the main deck. The extra deck is still subject to change as well, but this is only kind of a beta version, more or less, that functions very well. 2 copies of Stardust Dragon. Pretty good against a number of decks, so I did run 2. Scrap Dragon, you'll be amazed how many games this thing wins for you. When Dark End comes out as a promo, of course, you may want to consider him in addition or instead. Colossal Fighter, Infernity Doom Dragon, Thought Ruler Archfiends, Black Brute Drago. Obviously, this is Gigaplant plus a friend. That he'll probably reanimate. Basically, he gets back the Cherry and Mado and sinks with it to make that guy. Good beats take the turns back into Gigaplant when it dies. 2 copies of Black Rose Dragon. A lot more utilitarian in this deck because of the plants, obviously. Urbellum. Still good hand control. Goya. Bryanak. Dulorn. Remember, Lord Poison is water, so you can make Dulorn, and you can bounce Call, but you can bounce others, basically just to help you run stuff over. He's a good 6-star. Magical Android. And last but not least, Ally of Justice Catastrophe. Alright, that's the beta version of the deck I'm testing. I've been very impressed with what I've seen so far. I should have some dual videos posted at the same time as this video. And until next time, rate, comment, subscribe, and enjoy.